So now we're at the stage of looking at the purpose of the pre-vacate inspection. So firstly, what's the purpose of it? And secondly, what do we do to get the most out of it? So when speaking with the renter, you should request permission to conduct a pre-vacate inspection within 2 to 3 days, so 48 to 72 hours, after they've given notice to vacate. It's vital that you follow up with this with a request in writing to the renter, and that the notice of entry is given at least 24 hours prior to entering the property, just to make sure you comply. A copy of the notice needs to be kept in the renter file, just in case it ever ends up at VCAT or Magistrates Court. Now, during the pre-vacate inspection, you'll be looking to establish a couple of things. But firstly, I would make sure that I've invited the owner as well, or one of their representatives. Now, they may not be able to attend, but at least you're inviting them, particularly if you know they're interstate. See if they want to get a representative or someone, another family member or somebody else that can actually represent them on the day. Inform the renter that they're coming. If the property is in a condition whereby public and private open for inspections can be scheduled for the last 21 days, that's what you want to try and figure out. So part of the vacate is you want to get there and you want to figure out, is this property at a stage where we can present it and is it in its best light? And if it needs capital works, if it needs repainting, if it needs new carpet, if it needs whatever the scenario, if there's damage to the premises, then you certainly don't want to be going in and listing the property online. So before we go and load the property online and then open the door, bring somebody in to realise that the property doesn't look well presented, then we need to be able to do it this way. So during the pre-vacate inspection, you'll be looking to establish if there is any significant damage to the property that you ought to be aware of that may impact your ability to lease out the property or conduct inspections. Now, the one that has happened to my office personally, and I do hear of a lot, is mould. So what happens is you won't necessarily, the renter may not necessarily pick this up or send it through as a maintenance request, and then you go and do open for inspections. You go into the bathroom or the laundry and you see lots of mould, particularly off the back of a couple of years of COVID, where people have been working from home, locked up, working at home more, so therefore they don't have their windows open more, and they're also potentially running washers and dryers and those sorts of things whilst at home, and heaters are on much more frequently. You also want to determine what the state of the cleanliness of the property is in, which will give a good indication as to how the property will be returned when the renter vacates. So if the property doesn't look very well and it's not very clean, then again, you don't want to be necessarily bringing people through. It's probably better to hold off until the renters have gone, then run 1 or 2 opens, and you can do a couple during the week because you don't have to worry about the renters. You could do 3 opens during the week and 1 on a Saturday to try and get the property leased. Much better than taking good quality candidates through a property that looks poor, has damage to it, and probably mould or needs painting or needs capital works, and you're going to burn those really good candidates. You also, when you're looking to establish, when conducting the inspection, also look at the car spaces and the storage units or the garage to see if there's lots of rubbish stored in there. That's really important because you know what you're then going to get back. Take the original condition report and any of the routine inspections that were carried out during the tenancy to use as a reference. So go in and have a look, and then show the renter, this is what we're going to be using. We're going to be using the ingoing condition report as the checklist when you leave, to compare the property from when the commencement of the tenancy, when it started, to what it is now. And if it's applicable, take a couple of the corflutes to the property, maybe for common areas, window sills, balustrades on the balcony, corner fences. You might just want to pop them, if it's an apartment, you might just want to pop them into the windowsill and in maybe one of the areas that's facing the street, so at least then people can start to see that the property, it will be coming up for lease. May also be a good time to update the photos or the internet copy. Now, you might find that the photographs aren't good if the property's not well presented or the tenant doesn't want you to take photos, but at least the internet copy of the outside of the property, plus also a copy of the communal areas, shops, shopping centres, all of the lifestyle. You need to be able to do that there and then. So shops, shopping centre, transport, public transport, road networks, schools, cafes, they're probably the main ones. Parks, sporting facilities, they're the ones that are attractive. Whether tertiary education, primary school, kindergartens, you want to take photographs of all of those, particularly if it's going to be written into the ad. If the ad makes reference to a primary school, then the internet photos should show that particular primary school, because people will look on their phone, they'll go through the photos before they'll read the text. So you want to make sure that the photos, don't expect that the text is ever read, always referred back through to mainly for the photographs. That needs to tell a story. Hero shot needs to capture the person. So price and hero shot will capture the person, and then the photographs will get them engaged enough to actually read the rest of the ad. Don't think that the ad's going to actually capture a person. Okay, refer to the company guidelines with regards to advertising. Make sure that you're actually advertising in accord with the Consumer Affairs guidelines and also the agent's guidelines, the agency. Ensure the rental provider invite the rental provider to the pre-vacate. That's the one there. Now, public and private open for inspections. Residential rental agreement provides that the rental provider or the agent has the right to schedule open for inspections in the last 21 days. After the property manager or listing consultants conducted the pre-vacate, after 2 to 3 days, it's then decided that the property is in a condition where it's appropriate to conduct inspections. That's when you would go through and then you would start to put together a series of dates. So inside of here, propose the dates, and then once these dates have been set, then what you want to do is you want to be able to send a letter through to the tenant. I'm not sure where that's all just gone. Send a letter through to the tenant inside of there. Okay, determine what state the cleanliness is in, significant damage, when conducting, take original photographs, condition report. Here we are. Yeah, this may be appropriate time to update the photos. Actually, where have we gone? Here, we've actually moved, we've scanned, sorry. Here it is, here. Yeah, need to send the dates through via a letter confirming for the open dates. Okay, copy of the letter needs to be saved in the file with regards to open times and the nature of the inspection. It's really important. Inspection dates should be then loaded onto the internet and any of the platforms, Inspect Real Estate and those sorts of things. Inspection dates should also be noted on the rental list, and inspection dates should be emailed to the reception inside their diary. So they should have a diary with all the inspection dates. So if somebody is an inbound call, the reception doesn't have to be chasing, depending on which person's calendar they're in. There should be a inspection diary, and all inspections should be put into that one, both sales and rentals, so that the receptionist can look straight away and say, yes, that person is at that time. Here's the number. It's a vacant property. Here's the price. So you need to have a look at the process around setting up the inspection diary. Rental reference for the next property. Now, when it comes to providing a rental reference, my suggestion is that the office does not provide a reference. It provides a statement of facts. And those statement of facts is rather than a reference, it's around the rent that was paid or not paid, the length of time that the lease was there, and the condition at the end. So we'll happily provide the renter a ledger and the vacating condition report. Really, really happy to present that, and then they can use that as evidence to go to their next property if they wanted to. But what you don't want to do is start getting into cleanliness and the way the person lived and those sorts of things, or the way they interacted. So you're better off from a reference point of view, just a statement of facts. If another agency contacts us requiring a reference, then just explain you don't give a verbal reference, that you're happy to give a copy of the ledger and also their condition report, but you'd want that on writing as part of their privacy. You want the privacy statement to be sent across. And it's vital that we have a copy of the request from a reference from another agent on file, providing any information. There's no way of knowing who the person is that's actually calling up. And inform the renter that best practice real estate or your agency may record a note on the National Tenancy database, such as NTD or ticker, should the renter not conclude their lease in accordance with the lease obligations. Of course, that needs to go through the VCAT. Related process associated with the reletting process, that also needs to be followed. So you then need to close and archive the renter in the Google Drive, plus also in the property management software. And if you're doing it in the Google Drive, they need to be archived into the financial year, which runs July through to June not in the calendar year. So you should already have an archive register, an archive folder, and that's where the renter needs to go. Close off and archive the tenant, the renter inside of the property management trust software, provided the bond's been released within the appropriate amount of days. Change the rent status in the property management software to 0 and weekly. That's again to show that all the properties that are vacant, and when you're looking at the rental ledger, the rental list, then it should all show as 0 and weekly. So then you can identify those properties which are absolutely vacant and not income producing. Vacate inspection procedure, need to go through that, which we talked about. Return the security bond. If you need to, application to VCAT or the magistrates court. Go through the landlord's insurance if need be. Keys, handover process. Owner's charge form for the next letting for the next renter. Sorry, need to make sure that the fees are charged in accord with the management authority, and you don't miss anything. So if you've got a board or core flutes or NTDs or ticker or internet, you need to make sure that they're all captured. Now, of course, letting fees, they would ordinarily be captured, but you want to make sure that that's what's written into the management authority. And then towards the back end, the department manager really should be going through and doing an audit on the files each month. So let's just go through and have a quick look at what we've got. We're basically, it's the same document that I've got here. You can print this off. We've gone through the electronic version, but so we're end of tenancy vacate procedure, V2 October, 7 pages, and exactly the same thing that I've got stated here. But here it's a little bit more of a checklist. So these are the things that really need to be done. So tick, tick. I'm not suggesting you print this as a checklist. I am suggesting that in your training that you actually know that these are the tasks that you need to fulfill, and mentally tick those off. If you needed to, you could use this as a checklist. You could tick it off, but there isn't any area here for the property and so forth. So it's not really meant to be an extensive checklist. This is more of a procedure. And conversation with the renter. So we've got the rental provider here. Then we've got the renter here. And yep. And again, more of the details. These are the tasks that need to be completed. And towards the back end, I said pre-vacate, go through the pre-vacate process, open for inspections, and any of the tasks at the end. So hopefully that's given you a really good understanding of the vacate process, particularly given the fact that if you get this right when the notice to vacate is issued, if you can get this right, you'll find yourself spending less time in dispute with issues with the renter at the vacate. So go through the process, understand, watch the videos a couple of times, understand what's required, and if you became really, really good at getting this part right, so ending the vacate process well, ending the tenancy and the vacate process really well, what you'll find is you will have a much easier transition for the renter to vacate, advertise the property, and then find that new person into the next letting. And again, by going through this process, what you'll also be able to do is make sure that your property is maintained well. You make sure that the maintenance is there. It's always going to be clean, and you're always going to be getting back a good quality property that you've given out to begin with. So hopefully these videos and the procedure has helped. Best of luck with it. Take care.